What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the PhDJ podcast. That right over there is my man, Mike Walter.
What's going on, everybody? You can't point, Joe, because most people, I think, still listen.
That's a valid point.
I know we have the video aspect of this, but I think right now
I'm pointing at myself.
Yeah, most of the people who check this podcast out do it through just audio, not video. And that's no knock on John Young. I love being part of this platform, but yeah, so we have to stop with the visuals.
That's true. Well, I'm Joe Bunn, by the way. I never said
you are,
that.
and you're pointing at yourself.
Again, pointing at myself. So
what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Everything's good, baby.
Yeah, only a couple weeks now.
Woo, man. It's home stretch of these. I'm assuming you're doing the same thing, going through and cleaning up all your presentations
not
for the
just
workshop.
Cleaning up, but adding stuff nonstop. You know, the social. I mean, the stuff that I talk about with running a multi-op, that stuff has not changed fundamentally. But man, I mean, I talk about marketing to the millennial, and you talk about maximizing social media. And I mean, that stuff, even if you delivered that material every 3 months, you'd have to update it.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it's been 2 years, right, since we did this workshop?
It was,
2 years ago, we did Mobile Beat. Last year, we did a PhDJ 2, which had some newer material in it. But so, I mean, this material is 2 years old. I've pretty much completely scrapped what I talk about and replaced it. You know,
man, I had a lot of changes to make to everything from the visual aspect of the slides. It's been a lot of work. And by
the way, that link I sent you, I forgot. You don't really focus on that subject now. But I'd mention it, so I'll slip it into my.
Yeah, and I think share the link. It was a great link on blogging.
Yeah, I thought so too. Some really good tips. Yeah.
So anyway, everybody, hopefully you're going to make it out to Mobile Beat. Mike's speaking. I'm speaking. We've got the workshop. We've got my fiberglass DJ booths are going to be on the trade show floor, so it's going to be a big time out in Vegas. I hope everybody.
Yeah, and you know, talking about updating material, I've been rehearsing my seminar because I've only got a half hour on performance, which. I mean, listen, I appreciate Mobile Beat squeezing me in, but I could do 2 hours on performance. So the fact that I've got 30 minutes, I am cramming and squeezing. The only thing I can tell you, if you're going to be out in Vegas, be in your seat 9 a.m. Wednesday morning, because I start with a bang, and I'm giving out 2 major prizes.
Dang.
And I mean, in the first 5, you won't want, like, if you drift in at 10 after 9, you're going to be like, what did I miss?
What did I just,
So be there, be in your seat at 8:55, be ready to go, man.
I'll be there, Mike.
Good. I know you will.
Will you be there for me?
I will, of course I will. Of course.
On the last day. All right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So anyway, moving on from that, today, so as you guys know, if you're an avid listener, we kind of go back and forth and we choose topics each week. And
you know, we often say that the other person won't know, and sometimes we hedge our bets. You know, sometimes there is prep involved, so we have to say to the other person, hey, by the way, but I literally have no clue.
No clue.
I texted you last night, your topic this week, right? And you were like, yep. And that's usually when the other person goes, yeah, we'll be talking about blah, blah, blah. But I have zero clue. So Joe could throw any curveball at me right now.
I did.
This would be whatever my answers are today. It is completely off the cuff, spontaneous.
I hit him with a yup.
Yep.
Before I get to that, one last thing I want to do. I want to mention here. So write this number down or put it in your phone. So text PhDJ to 919.
Do I have to write this?
Yeah, I think so. PhDJ. Text the word or the saying PhDJ to 919-364-6186. Again,
919.
Text PhDJ to 919-364-6186.
6186.
Correct.
And PhDJ can be spelled anyway, because we spell it capital P, lower
Doesn't
H,
matter.
Capital T. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
PhDJ.
I don't think it's case sensitive, and you should get a notification that you've been added to our list. And basically,
I'm doing this live.
Yeah. Did it work for you? I hope it works.
Yes. Thank you for listening to the PhDJ Workshop with Joe Bunn and Mike Walter. Why do you get top billing? I don't understand that. Is it alphabetical order?
I think so, yes.
Is it youth? It should go by experience, so I should be first.
That's valid. All right, I'll
now be the first to be informed when it comes to the podcast or PhDJ Workshop. Exclamation point. Thanks again. Exclamation. Who wrote this?
Me.
You're top billing and too many exclamation points.
I'll change it.
I've been used to it my whole life. My mom is the queen of exclamation points.
Really?
Oh, if you send my mom an email and you get back one exclamation point,
something's wrong with her.
something's wrong. Yeah. Yeah. You like minimum 3. If it's even an average idea.
Right.
Mom, I'll see you 2:00 Tuesday. Great. 5 exclamation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so anyway, if you text that PhDJ to 919-364-6186, we'll have your number. We promise not to spam you, blow you up or anything, but you will be the first to know when we drop new episodes, when Mike has a new product coming out, when I have a new product coming out, when we announce new dates or new cities for the workshop. So anyway, that's a good way to stay informed. All right, moving on. We've talked enough about that. The first one I would like to talk about, and this is a good one. This is Zach Thomas. So these came from listeners from the past few months when we polled people, or people send us private messages. I get DM'd on Instagram, Facebook messages. I'm sure you do too, emails. This one from Zach Thomas, and I think it's a good one, Mike. This is dealing with attrition, losing DJs. And I think you and I have been blessed or fortunate over the years to hold on to some of our talent for a long, long time. I know one of your top guys just moved to Florida, but that was it wasn't you being a bad boss or him being unhappy. I hope
not. I hope I didn't drive him out of the area.
He just made that move to the warmer climates. But anyway, how do you handle, Mike, if DJ Kevin has worked for you for years. He moves. His wife has a baby, doesn't want him to DJ anymore. He gets burnt out, and he's got 6, 10, 12 shows on the books. You want to walk us through, like, as a business owner, how you handle something like that? Because I think Zach gives a good question.
My agreement with these guys up front is that if the situation happens like that they will give me fair notice and do every single one of their events. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but so in the situation of Corey, who moved to Miami, he told me over a year in advance, and we knew exactly what day he was going to leave, so we booked him up, and literally he left on a Monday morning. He did weddings that Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
And so we knew, and other situations, like you talk about a guy getting burnt out.
Yeah.
I had a phenomenal DJ working for us a number of years ago. This guy, John, he came to me almost in tears and said, he's got 2 daughters and a beautiful wife. And he just said, I have to give this up. I love DJing, but I just have to. I can't surrender my weekends anymore. But we looked at his calendar, and he was booked about 9 months out. And he said, Mike, of course, I'm going to honor every one of these agreements. So his career just kind of trickled down to the end. And, we made a big deal. We made a big deal with Corey. We had one final meeting where everybody did Corey's send off. I did the same thing with John. I've done the same thing many, many times through the years. So that's my upfront agreement with my DJs. And knock wood, and that was me this week and not Shay's tail. But 95% of my DJs have honored that agreement and everything else. If emergencies have happened, then that is, and I've said this to plenty of people. I talk about this extensively at the workshop, so we don't really have time here, but it's the worst part of your job. If you ever have to call brides and say, hey, I'm sorry, I know you wanted DJ Billy or DJ whatever, and I can no longer provide them for you. That's really the worst possible part of being a multi-op. Now,
Mike, and that would be because of non-performance issues or
well, that's funny because if you remember, I'm not going to use the kid's name, but a couple years ago, I had to let a guy go for being super late to a wedding. And he had, I think, about a half a dozen weddings on the book. And I just decided I didn't love his response to me about being late.
I remember you saying I could have given him another chance, but he acted real flippant.
It was something exactly. If he had come in and fallen on the sword and said, Mike, I effed up and I will never do it again.
Yeah.
But he was, he didn't have the attitude like shit happened. But that was, I shouldn't say he didn't say shit happens, but he had that attitude. He had man, I was late. And I was like, no, there's not enough. So I decided in that moment to let him go. But that's a different thing because that's, believe it or not, that's a little bit of an easier reassignment because when a bride hears, hey, listen, I let him go. He had either gotten a complaint or been super late to a wedding. You're basically telling them, I did this for you. Let's find you a better DJ.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's not as hard as this guy moved away or this guy is no longer it's a tough reassignment.
Man, the other thing I was going to mention about that, and I'm the same way. Listen, I've been really lucky. I've been very fortunate to keep my guys, especially what I call my soldiers, for a long, long time. They seem happy. They make a lot of money. most of them do this on the weekends and then have other jobs. But I have had guys. I've had guys that, I remember walking in. I remember a guy showed up late to a wedding. He did make it. I think it was maybe middle of the cocktail hour, and luckily the cocktail hour was somewhere else. He ended up setting up. I ended up being in the same city, and I finished my gig and went there afterwards because I knew I had to save face with this bride. And even when I got there, I walked up, and he was actually on a stage. It's one of those kind of venues that has a stage, which is pretty rare down here. And he's up there on this stage, which is way too big for a DJ. He's got his sleeves rolled up and his tie like loose, like he's on the campaign trail. And this was back when I only had a few guys, and they were still using my gear. And I'm not going to curse, but I literally walked up to him and I said, "Get the F out." And he was like, "Do what?" And I said, "Get out." And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I go, "Get your jacket and walk out. I'm finishing this." And never saw him again. Clown.
So there are numerous times that Joe and I disagree about ways to do work, and this is one that I vehemently disagree, because you were lucky that guy grabbed his jacket and just walked out. But and maybe it's a Northeast thing,
maybe it is.
I was North Carolina thing, right. But I could see that becoming a very volatile situation, right. And it would be my fault as a business owner for bringing that into somebody else's wedding.
True.
So if he had taken a swing at you on that stage, and now you two are going at it
on stage,
literally ruining this bride's wedding. It's already been hurt by a DJ who was late, and now the owner and that DJ are going at it. So I would strongly not recommend.
But I wouldn't either. I don't.
If you want to meet the guy in the parking lot after the loadout or whatever, but that's not a great strategy.
Again, very young in the game. Maybe 3 guys on staff.
Yeah. So Joe has matured.
I would not do that again. Sure. But I did save the wedding and rocked it.
Well, it's funny now that you mention it. That was another one of my problems with this situation a couple years ago. We had a situation, decades ago, where a guy screwed up at a wedding. And I remember it was a Friday night.
Yeah.
And the reason I remember that was he showed up at my house on Saturday morning and in tears. And Mike, I will never let this happen again. And I'm sorry. Please don't fire me. And I kept him on staff. And he, for the next couple years, until he did move on, and I think he was another one of those guys who moved on because he was starting a family and just didn't want to give up the weekends. He never screwed up again. And then fast forward to this situation a couple years ago, it was the same thing. It was a Friday night. And I remember after the gig, I texted this kid and I said, "We need to meet as soon as possible."
Yeah.
And he said, "I'll see you after work on Monday." And I said, "Wait, you can't." I said, "I'm available. I don't have a wedding till Saturday night. I can't do it. I'm busy. I'm available all day." I mean, I had that Sunday off. I said, "I'm available all day Sundays." Yeah, I'm not. So to me, that was a big part of it too. Not only was it his attitude once he came in and sat down, but it took this kid 72 hours to meet with me when he knew his job was dangling by the thread. And that told me a lot. It told me a lot about how much he cared. And in the end of the day, you can be as talented as in the world, but if you don't care about this business, I can't work with you.
I'll tell you what's funny, Mike, that story I was telling you just a minute ago, it was so long ago that I remember the issue. He didn't have a cell phone. That's how long ago it was. I couldn't even reach him, to tell him. Anyway, that's how long ago it was. He had a pager, maybe. No, I don't think he had that. But anyway, my point is very similar to Mike, guys. If I had to make that call, it is a very tough call as a multi-op owner to make, especially in my situation, because as most of you know, if you listen, my guys sell themselves. So that means that DJ met with them, they liked him, they wanted to book with him, they sent a deposit in. And then what do you know? He's gone. So the only saving grace usually is that now that my price point is higher than my guys, I'm not always booked every weekend. So let's just say some guy had 8 or 10 weddings booked. It's a good chance, Mike, that I've got 3 or 4 of those dates where I can personally come.
Right. And that is one of the advantages as an owner. If you kick back your schedule a little bit, there's nobody better to step into a wedding as a quote unquote backup or replacement than the owner of the company. Yep. So yes, I mean, I it's funny because in the last couple of years I've opened up my schedule more. So if I were to lose a DJ right now, I probably wouldn't have that option. But there have been options in the past where it's like, oh, great, I can cover half of these weddings that need to be covered, no doubt. And going back to my original point, having this upfront agreement with your staff and having them understand the urgency of giving you, not 2 weeks notice, but literally 2 years notice if they can. is something that you have to communicate with your staff from day one. You talk about it when you hire them.
In the interview.
And then you should mention it from time to time. And the best way to mention it is when you celebrate somebody like a Corey Fox. I mean, believe me, the last meeting that we had where we basically all went around the room and told our stories about Corey and how much we're going to miss him. But in that meeting, I reminded everybody that one of the reasons we're celebrating Corey right now is he did it the right way. He gave, I don't have to call one bride and let her know I don't have this DJ that you wanted. So you remind your staff numerous times. There's a great saying, begin with the end in mind. I think it's from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but I might have the book wrong. But begin with the end in mind. The end is not everyone's going to work with you forever, but how are they going to exit the company? And you need to let them know from day one the proper way to exit.
I mean, listen, Mike and I have been doing this 25, 30 years, and we've had both, I can assure you. We've had people that left the right way, and then we've had people that left the wrong way. We've had people probably give out their own cards at our gigs. We've had people, say they're going to start their own thing and try and steal your client. I mean, it's going.
I had a guy get in my face once, literally, and say, "I'm going to put you out of business."
Yep.
Literally.
Me too.
And I actually, he was a talented young man, so I was scared of that. And 25 years later, it hasn't happened.
No.
But yeah, so it can happen, man.
Yeah, man, it does happen. And as a multi-op owner, whether you're doing this, you're in year 2 or year 20, if it hasn't happened, it's going to happen.
Right.
All right. Next topic in the grab bag today, Rick Kaywood. So he wants to know, and
Rick,
again,
by the way, Rick and his wife Rondi are coming to the workshop in Vegas.
Yeah? Oh, okay.
And I've actually, I don't want to give away the surprise, but I'm utilizing them during my seminar in mobile.
Cool.
Rick and Rondi. I've been trying to practice because that's Rick and Rondi. It can be a tongue twister.
They're both coming.
Yeah.
Husband and wife.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, Rondi is very involved in the business, and she'll be there in our workshop as well. So anyway, sorry.
Cool.
Go, Rick.
No.
Rick's
Rick.
comment.
So I don't want to get too in depth with this, because especially since he's coming to the workshop, and we do have an actual lawyer coming in. Sounds like Andy Griffith, like that.
Jeremy's from down south, so he probably says it
maybe
closer
he does
to
like that. So Jeremy Jones is coming into the workshop, but let's talk briefly, Mike, about a couple of things in your contract. One, deposit, when it's due, and the terminology. Is it non-refundable, I guess, is my first question.
It is non-refundable. I'd have to pull up the actual agreements. This is where I wish you would ask me to prep.
Sorry.
But I know we will be looking these over. Again, workshop plug. I know Jeremy, these are the things that Jeremy is going over. So specific contracts, and I'm sure he's going to be looking at our clauses. So yes, we do say it's non-refundable. I think we even call it a retainer, although I think Jeremy is one of the people who basically has said that doesn't matter.
Yeah. Whether it's called retainer or deposit.
Exactly. The terminology might not be that important. If I have that wrong, what's the usual? I am not a lawyer. What's the usual,
but I play one on TV.
Disclaimer here.
Right.
So yes, it says, and as far as when it's due, so it's funny. We've had this conversation now a number of times in the office about holding DJs. If somebody calls and says, "Hey, I want to book Dan Famosa for October. He's open." Okay, I will send you an agreement. We used to, just because it took a long time in the mail, everything was done by the mail. We used to give a 7 to 10 day hold on that. But we've cut it down to 5 days now because we are going to email them that agreement that afternoon, that day. I mean, literally with DJ Event Planner, you can hang up the phone, put the information in, send an emailed e-contract in 15 minutes.
Sure.
So they have it instantaneously. So there's not that 2 to 3 day lag of licking an envelope, sticking in the mail, wait till if you miss today's mail, it doesn't get picked up tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. So they have it instantaneously. 4 or 5 days is more than enough time to look it over, maybe look at some video footage we've sent. And then, again, they don't have to. They can print it out and send it in with a deposit if they want, but they could just call us with a credit card. So we looked at this situation, I think it was earlier this year. I know it was very recently, and said, why are we still doing 7 to 10 days? It makes no sense. So we've cut it down to 5 days. And again, with DJ Event Planner, you can send out, and I'm sure I would imagine the other DJ.
I think anything is e-sign now.
So there's a pending status, and you can put in the actual date that you want. So so it's not a hard, 5 days or whatever from the time you go to. So for example, if somebody if somebody wanted a contract today, but they were going to come to a bridal show next Tuesday night, and I said, okay, I'll hold it until then I can make the date next Tuesday night or next Wednesday to give them the day after. So you will have flexibility with that. But we just decided, 5 days is more than enough.
Yeah, I think ours, Mike, we shortened it. I think it was 2 weeks, and we shortened it to 10 days. I mean, I think you and I have had this conversation a little bit. What we do the e-signing of the contract, and a lot of people do that, immediately. Please send us a contract, and then within 24 hours they've e-signed it.
Yeah.
But since we started adding the 3% fee, a lot more people have started sending in checks now. So we do have that kind of a lag in the U.S. mail, especially Monday being President's Day, got no mail. So anyway, and then
and also we contact the client the day before the contract is due, and if a client says to us at that point, "Oh, I stuck it in the mail," I mean, we're not going to be jerks about it.
Same here.
We're not going to give them 3 weeks, but we're going to give them a couple of extra days if it's not in exact. But this situation came up earlier in the year, and I'm recalling it now because we were somebody called and said, "Hey, I want so and so on so and so a date." We looked it up, and another one, one of our salesperson got that call, and the other one had somebody on hold for like 10 days. And it was like, well, okay. And then it turned out we waited that 10 days. They didn't book them. So we booked that other client immediately. But that was one of those, I didn't want to lose client B, but I wanted to give client A the respect that we had told them. So that's when we just said, we got to shorten this. There's no reason for it.
I agree. Not in this day and age. It was different, when it needed to be 2 weeks. And then, Mike, just talk briefly about your cancellation policy. The groom backs out or...
So deposits are non-refundable. If you cancel within 90 days, according to the agreement, you owe us the balance due.
I think
now that's what's in writing. How often do I collect that? Not so much. A lot of times, especially if it's 2.5 months out or 2 months out, I will say, look, there's $1,000 due. By contract, if you pay me half of that, I'll consider the contract broken. And at that point, I can, if I collect that, then I can pay my DJ something for losing the night off, and nobody gets that hurt. So that's the way we handle it for the most part.
So, Mike, just, and I'm pretty much the same, Mike. I mean, listen, there's been, I think ours says if you cancel within 60 days, you owe the balance. I have been able to several times collect a full $2,500, $3,000 wedding from somebody that never has it, and I beg them, like, have a breaking up party, do something like. I've got the date booked for you.
I did one of those last year. I think I mentioned it on. It was that kind of client. The groom leaves her a couple weeks beforehand, so now she's got a DJ that's paid for, a banquet hall, and they canceled initially. And then a week later, she was like, "What am I doing? I've paid all this money for a party," and it was a pretty good party. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't as packed or as great as her wedding might have been, but I had these people dancing, and she threw a party.
Well, so going backwards in a little bit, Mike. So let's say that a wedding cancels, it cancels 2 weeks from now, and you've got Dan booked or whatever. Talk about paying him, or how do you? So in other words, let's say I'm just going to make up a low price, or whatever. Let's say it's a $2,000 wedding. You got to. Do y'all take a 50% deposit? I guess.
No, we take about a third.
Okay. So we take half, and we've never had anybody push back on that. But let's say you took, whatever, $800 of that. The balance is $1,200. Dan's got the date, and he's had it held for 12 months because he's a top entertainer. How does he, at this point, get paid if you don't collect that other 12?
My agreement with my DJs is if I don't collect the back end, then they're not going to get paid.
Right. So you look at that deposit almost like as your admin.
Yeah, I think my guys understand that the deposit money, and it does. I mean, that's just not, it's not me saying it, but the deposits go to the business. And that's why, I always joke around in June. I'm not making money in June. I'm making money in January and February when the deposit money is coming in.
Sure.
In June, I'm the middleman. I mean, there are Mondays. Yeah, there are Mondays in June where I cut payroll and my bank account goes from here to here. And I mean, I've texted you a couple times.
Yeah.
I'm like, payroll's 50 grand this week.
Right.
You know what I mean? But so, my DJs, I think, I mean, no one's really ever pushed back against it.
Yeah.
I believe that they understand it. You know, if I can collect that or a portion of the balance due, if I get a portion of the balance due, you'll get a portion of what you were due.
Same.
And I think listen, fortunately, it happens so rarely. This is maybe, you know, even with the volume Elite does, this happens a handful of times every year. And sometimes my DJs are like, yeah, you know what, I'll have the night. Because there have been times where I'll call a guy and I'll say, look, I'm sorry, this event canceled within 2 months out.
Yeah.
Now you've got this Saturday free, but I've got this other party. It's not a wedding, but it's a blah, blah, blah. And would you take it? I'll pay you what you would have made on the wedding. And there have been times when the guy goes, nah, you know what? I'll just take the Saturday night off.
Right.
So, you know, I think it comes down to the difference between somebody who does this as a part-time and it's nice gravy money, or somebody who literally lives on this income. So if it's somebody who has a full-time job and they do the gigs on the weekend, sometimes they hear about a Saturday night they canceled and they go, oh, okay, I'll take that night off.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I want to go back to collecting that balance and not returning. If it is a hardship case, then I'm a softie when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make it sound like, you know, oh, my groom died, well, you still owe me the balance.
Right.
I wouldn't be that way, which makes both of us probably not great businessmen, because you know, like somebody pointed out years ago, if you have a death in the family, is your bank going to say, oh, don't bother paying the mortgage?
Your mortgage.
Oh, of course not. So, but I just couldn't say to a bride who had a tragedy, you still owe me the balance too. I just couldn't.
Me neither.
Not in.
Okay, so that answers most of those questions, and you know, we can obviously Rick and what is it, Rondi?
Rondi. And you know what? I'm interested now at the workshop what Jeremy's take is, A, on our clauses, and B, on the possibility of going out. Maybe he has a better strategy for going after that back end. So again, little teaser here for not only you and I, the education we provide, but the fact that Jeremy is coming in for this one and offering us good stuff.
A real lawyer. Mike, have you ever done the whole small claims thing or taken somebody to court? Or have you had to go through this?
I have had to take, I think, 2 clients to small claims court. I went to small claims with my ex-partner in the business. And I am, well, I want to say 3 for 3, but 2 out of the 3 times it was half. Which I've never understood. Like, what are you splitting the baby here?
Right.
But 2 out of times it was, okay, you won, but you're only going to collect whatever, 500.
Right.
Which is probably one of the reasons why I say, hey, just give me half, because I figure if we go through this whole rigmarole, you're only going to help me have anyway. You know.
Yeah. So last real quick one, Mike. I think we got 4 or 5 minutes left here. So I saw Troy Miller. He's an ex pseudo-professional wrestler / DJ. Do you follow Troy? He's a cool guy.
I think he's like, recognize the name.
I think he's like Superstar 1974 or something on Instagram. Cool. Anyway, he's a DJ now. Cool guy. He kicked the bee's nest the other day on DJ Idea Sharing. And I don't know if I want to kick it either.
Which ain't easy to do.
Yeah,
it ain't hard to do.
It ain't hard to do. Sit or stand. That's what I'll say.
Oh God, I've always been a stander. Matter of fact, when I don't even want a chair behind my setup, because
they try and give me one.
Illusion. Yeah, sometimes you're setting up and I'll say to a state, you can get rid of that chair.
Me too.
You sure you don't want it back there? No, I don't even want the illusion that I may sit at some point.
I've even gone.
But listen, Joe, I think it's a physical thing.
It is.
You and I both have a dear friend in this business.
Yes.
And I won't out him, not that I think he's embarrassed by it, but he has one of those sit-stand things.
Sure.
Because he just physically, his knees aren't good and he can't. So I do think it's a physical thing. But if you're able to stand, you should stand all night.
Okay, that is exactly what
quick answer.
Yeah, that is my answer as well.
So this became a fight.
Bro,
you gotta love DJ Idea Sharing, man. If you're lacking drama in your life, just spend an hour on DJ Idea Sharing,
or post something even pseudo-inflammatory and waste your entire day going through the comments.
Right.
And I think he was just looking for me to, again, he looks to be. He may be in his 30s. I don't know. I can't really tell from his pictures, but he's able to stand. And I think he even kind of compared it to when he was wrestling. He was like, when I got to the point where I couldn't do a suplex or whatever the hot move is, I got out of it. You know what I mean? But I agree. There are plenty of people in my area, in your area, that are older than you and I, that are still DJing weddings every other weekend. But as they've gotten older, they've gotten ailments, or their back's hurt, or they've dealt with cancer, or surgeries and things like that. So if you can still entertain, which the caliber of person you're talking about and I'm talking about in the aforementioned example can out entertain me any day,
no doubt,
on one leg. Then I still think that you're in the game. You know what I mean? If you need to sit down during dinner, or the cake cutting or whatever, then by all means, I understand. But if you're physically able, like Mike and I, and only have pseudo bad backs and pseudo bad hearing and things, then stand up. You know what I mean? It's 5-6 hours. You're going to make it. Take the next day off if you need to. But
I'm thinking about at the DJ Expo in Atlantic City, Biz Marquee, who did just a friend. Yeah. He did it. He spun a set, and he literally, and I remember because I sent you a picture. He was using your table.
He was.
But he was sitting the entire night, never moved. I mean, no animation. And I was hanging out with my friend Matt Johnson, who, by the way,
I love
Matt is another one who, he was at that first workshop. He's another one. He moved to DC many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Gave me proper notice. I didn't have to reassign one event. So this podcast has gone full circle.
Yeah.
But Matt and I were hanging out, and Matt said to me at one point, he couldn't work for you, could he? And I said, no way. The guy not only sitting, but zero animation, zero energy. Yeah, even his facial, what do they call that now? RBF? He had resting bitch face, and he just wasn't into it. But he mixed well. I don't even want to say he mixed well. He slammed well. He slammed everything in. But, and so there's many, many ways to entertain, ways to skin a cat.
Right. If you can stand. That's my 2 cents on it. Yeah. But anyway, guys, another great episode. Thank you so much for listening. Again, one more time, text PhDJ to 919-6 shit. Again,
I've already gotten 4 texts from that, so I don't know if you.
Oh, really?
No, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
Good. Text PhDJ to 919-364-6186 to stay up to date on everything. And that's it, guys. We're rapidly moving towards Vegas. Probably have to double record next week or the week after, right, Mike?
Yeah, I think so, because I don't want to worry about trying to record one out there and then uploading it and everything else. So, I mean, I think maybe what we should do, though, is if you and I can get together, record one to go the other week, the week after. But we'll probably double up the week before. And then you said you have a vacation coming up?
I do,
so we might double up. Yeah. Anyway.
But I can't wait to see you guys out there, honestly.
Yeah,
if you listen to the podcast.
Looking forward to seeing everybody out there. Can't wait. One of the reasons I love going to conventions.
Me too. If you see Mike, you see myself in the hall, please come say that you listen. It just, again, man, when I went to Albany last week and spoke, I mean, there was 30, 40 people there. I felt like half the people in the room knew everything about us from the podcast. Well, whatever happened with that episode, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a really good feeling. Mike and I, we say we don't do a lot of prep. We don't, but there's a lot of time to record it and think about it. Mike does the editing and everything else. So when you guys let us know that you're a fan, it really
makes it all worth it.
It does. It makes us want to keep doing it. So thank you guys, and we'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right.
That's it.
Later, guys.